Welcome everyone. I'm Pastor Vlad, pastoring Vision Church here in Bromley. And the last time we started a series where we're looking at a minister and his or her relationships. And today, like last time, we have Pastor Paul Hodgson with us. As a reminder, last time we talked about a minister and his or her relationship with God. So if you haven't watched that episode, please make sure to do so. Today, we are looking at a minister and his or her relationship with himself or herself. So welcome, Paul. Let me start with one of the most important questions, which is this: how can a minister guard or protect his or her heart?
Well, I'm reminded of a little song I sang in Sunday school when I must have been about 5 years old. And the song goes, "Be careful, little eyes, what you see. Be careful, little eyes, what you see. There's a Saviour up above, and he's looking down in love. So be careful, little eyes, what you see." And then the next verse is, "Be careful, little ears, what you hear," and so on. And that is so significant that I can remember that after all these years. And I'd just like to say, before I get into the purpose of pointing that little song out, is how important it is what we put into children. You know, children's ministry, and my own personal ministry began with ministering to children. And children's ministry is so important. You know, very often we think, oh, let's just get rid of the children, we'll put them in the creche, we'll put them in the Sunday school, and the big people will get on with the sermon, or whatever, or real worship, or whatever it may be. But actually, what those people who are ministering to the children are doing is probably one of the most important ministries in the whole church.
Yes.
And we should really value them. And we should be really aware of, you know, how important it is what we're putting into the children from the earliest age, because they sure will remember it.
Yes. Well, obviously, you remember that little song.
I really do.
It's a powerful one, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
And the point is, it's still true today. I have to literally choose what I watch on the TV, on movies. I love movies. In fact, when I was younger, I used to love going to the movies. When movies were quite innocent, they're not anymore.
Yeah.
And I've got a lot to say about that. And that's one of the things I did talk about in one of my recent messages of the month. But in terms of choosing what videos to watch or what movies to watch, there's very few that I can allow myself to watch. And if I've ever watched something which I shouldn't have done, it spoils things. It makes you feel really guilty, and so I've hopefully learned, to be really, really, really careful about what I watch, what I listen to, because it's what goes into the heart that is what comes out of it.
Yes.
And again, we're talking about we can only minister to the extent that we are in blessing. I cannot bless other people if I'm not in blessing myself. And I cannot be in blessing myself if I'm listening to and watching things which are not right. And putting things into my heart, because they will stay there. And they will come out somewhere along the line. So it's really a matter of not only what we don't put in our hearts, it's also what we do put in our hearts.
Yes.
It's what we feed ourselves with, which is absolutely vital.
I think that was one of the questions that came to my mind now as you're speaking, because I think most people would agree, don't let dodgy, weird stuff in your heart through what you're hearing or listening to or seeing. But what about, there's a lot of stuff out there, whether it's movies or songs, that are not bad. There's no foul language, there's no weird movie scenes. How does that work? Because it can get to a point where things that are not bad, they numb our hearts. So in and of themselves, is this still guarding my heart if I watch things that are not necessarily sinful in and of themselves? What would you say to someone who says that I'm not watching anything bad or listening to anything bad?
I think it's important that we're normal, natural people and we are aware of what's going on in the world. You know, just because we know what's going on in the world doesn't necessarily defile us. I mean, God knows everything, all the wicked things, all the terrible things that are going on in the world, but he stays holy. And part of that is because he is of purer eyes than to behold evil.
Yeah.
So he doesn't participate in any of that stuff. But he totally knows about it, and he's totally aware of it, and yet he is separate from it.
Yeah.
And so somehow or another we have to learn to be like that, to be holy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that there are lots of innocent things that that don't necessarily defile us, and therefore, you know, I personally don't have a problem with carefully seeing or hearing secular music or documentaries or videos or whatever.
Yeah. I think what I had in mind, especially maybe people that tend to, as it's called, binge watching Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
And those things. So there's entire series that can last up to, I don't know, 9 hours or who knows.
Yes. Yeah.
And they may be funny, there's some humor and comedy in there, but watching it more than it's normal, like spending 4, 5, 6 hours a day, maybe even watching this, though it's not sinful and it's not even defiling from a spiritual point of view, it's basically time and energy we could have used to rest in God.
Yes, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Totally.
So
agree.
that's what I mean. Sometimes it's good things that numb our heart.
Yes.
And then when we go out, and I speak from experience, unfortunately, as well, you go out and minister to people, then it's like, okay, I haven't done anything sinful, but I haven't had my heart in a place where it's filled with God as well, because I've been busy or keeping it busy with stuff that are not bad, but neither are they necessarily adding value to me spiritually.
Yeah, I think you're totally right there. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So the way we guard our heart is basically being careful what and how much we allow to come through our little eyes and ears into our heart, because we minister out of a heart that's why we need to protect it and guard it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So linked to that, it's a question that I'm sure most, if not all, ministers struggle with at different times in their ministry. So what would you say to a minister who starts doubting his or her calling? And have you ever been in one of those situations, and what did you do about it?
Well, for start off, everybody is called. Absolutely everybody in the church is called to be part of the mission.
Yes.
Which is to make disciples.
Yeah.
And actually, you know, you can work in a factory and be a minister for God.
Yes. Yes. Amen.
And there's nothing wrong with working in a factory, by the way. I mean, before I went into ministry, full-time ministry, I deliberately worked in factories, I worked in offices, I worked in shops, so that I could honestly say I know what it's like.
Wow.
And I can also honestly say I wasn't perfect. I was very young. And so I wasn't the greatest witness or whatever there. I mean, people did know that I was a Christian, and I wasn't a bad person, you know, misbehaving or anything like that. But sometimes people didn't know. In fact, somebody said, "Oh, I didn't realise you were a Christian," and that was a bit sad.
Yes.
So basically, everybody, wherever they are, whatever they're doing, is a minister for God.
Yeah.
And within that, I think that there are those of us who have got a special gifting. Let's call it gifting rather than calling. So the gifting could be pastoral, the gifting could be evangelistic or prophetic or even apostolic or teaching. You know, those are the fivefold ministries, really. So I think that if you have got that gifting, it will be obvious. It will be obvious to you. It will be obvious to other people. And I think that possibly the issue is, where can I use that gifting?
Yeah.
And but let's just take one example. You can be pastoral, or you could have that pastoral gift without leading a church.
Yeah.
And you can lead a church without being pastoral.
I know.
Which is another subject.
Yes.
So if you have got a pastoral heart, how do you use that gift without leading a church? Well, I think it's very simple. You just care for people.
Yes.
You care, people you come across. For instance, in my home group yesterday, we had a message that one of the guys in the home group was taken into hospital with a terrible, terrible abdominal pain. He was allowed to go home, but he had to go back to the hospital the next day, which was yesterday. And so I just sent a message to Phil. I said, Phil, I'm praying for you today. I really, really prayed for him. Yes. I'm praying for you as you go back to the hospital today, and that everything will be fine. And he wrote back and said, thank you very much. But you see, I'm not his pastor, but I can't help being myself.
Yes.
That's who I am. I am a pastor, and I care for people. And so as soon as I knew Phil had this problem, my heart went out to him. Wow. And it was just the most natural thing in the world to pray for him. And to let him know that I was standing with him.
Yes. You're giving me a lot to think about on this, because basically it's a good point. It's not about the calling, because everyone is called. We are maybe specifically or uniquely gifted in different ways. So therefore, even the idea of someone doubting their calling, that's not really, it's not, because I'm thinking live as we're speaking. I never doubt my gifting, like at no point. I'm not perfect. It needs to be continuously developed, but I know sort of where God gifted me. So when things get tough as a minister, and they tend to, I feel like I'm doubting my calling, but not really. What I'm doubting is this working, right? Is my gifting making a difference in someone's life? And I think that can affect how we view ministry as well. So I'm just like, this is a very good point that I'll take with me. It's not about the calling, because that's for everyone. It's about basically using your God-given gift within the place He has brought you to the best of your ability that adds value to someone's life and glorifies God, right?
Absolutely.
That's powerful. I need to write a sermon about this. Wow, thank you. Did you want to add anything else to this idea?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. I think it's very important for us to be aware of this. So we guard our hearts. That's in terms of our relationship with ourselves. Watch what comes in, because that's what will come out as well. And in terms of doubting our calling, it's actually every Christian is called. Everyone is gifted. Use it to the benefit of others and the glory of God. And you will not doubt that God called you when you just shift a bit of perspective on these things, right? Wow, thank you, Paul. I'll mull over this. It's very powerful. Thank you again for being with us in this episode. Next time, we're going to look at a minister and his or her relationship with the spouse. So I'm looking forward to hear more of your wisdom in that as well. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.